Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe and tap the bell icon. It was supposed to be a simple errand. A quick trip to the dealership, a few papers to sign, and then she could go home and forget about it. But everything changed when she stepped inside. Tina stood in the sleek, modern showroom, surrounded by rows of polished cars gleaming under the bright lights. She had been here before, a few months ago, when her husband had traded in his old model for a newer one. Today, she was here alone, to finalize the paperwork on the car she had been eyeing for weeks. It should have been routine. But as soon as she approached the desk, something shifted. The salesman's smile faltered, and his eyes briefly flicked over her clothes. Nothing expensive, just a simple jacket and jeans. He cleared his throat and gestured for her to wait. Tina watched as he hurried off to the back office, his footsteps quick and purposeful. It wasn't long before the manager emerged, a tall man with a firm handshake and a polite smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mrs. Reynolds," he began, his tone smooth but with a hint of something off. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. We can't proceed with the sale today." Tina blinked. "What do you mean?" "I've already filled out all the forms. Everything's in order." He hesitated, his gaze flicking to the side before locking back on her. "We have certain protocols, you see. And at this moment, we can't offer you the vehicle." Her heart sank. "I don't understand. Is there a problem with my credit?" She didn't want to ask, didn't want to admit the fear that had suddenly twisted in her stomach. She had been banking on this car. The manager didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced toward the front doors as if searching for something or someone. Tina's eyes narrowed. "May I speak with your husband?" he asked abruptly, his voice almost too polite. "If there's any confusion with the paperwork, we need him here to finalize the deal." Tina's throat tightened. "My husband isn't here," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. "I don't need him to finalize anything." "Understood," he said, nodding as if she had just confirmed something. "But without him present, I'm afraid we can't move forward." His words were final. Tina stood frozen for a moment, the shock of the situation still sinking in. She was being denied something that should have been hers, something she had every right to own. Her fingers curled into fists at her sides. And then it clicked. The manager hadn't said a word about her finances or the car's availability. Instead, he had made an assumption. An assumption about her ability to make this deal happen. Something was wrong. Something wasn't adding up. With a deep breath, Tina pulled out her phone. She typed a quick message to her husband, "Come to the dealership now. They won't let me buy the car." She hit send and turned back toward the counter, trying to hide the growing unease in her chest. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice steady but sharp, "but I'll be waiting for my husband to get here." The manager gave her a thin smile, then turned and walked away without another word. Tina didn't sit down. She didn't want to show weakness. But her heart was racing. What was going on here? Why had they singled her out? Why did they think they could deny her something so simple? Minutes passed, and the minutes stretched into an eternity. She kept her phone close, fingers tapping nervously on the screen. The dealership's hum of activity buzzed in the background, but her mind was far from it. She didn't have long to wait. Her husband, Mark, arrived in a rush, pushing through the door with his usual air of confidence. She could see the change in the staff as soon as he entered. The manager, who had previously been cold and dismissive, was suddenly all smiles and politeness, walking over with a much more deferential tone. "Mr. Reynolds, welcome," the manager said smoothly. "We've been expecting you. Is everything okay with your wife? We've just been finalizing some details." Tina could feel the tension in her jaw as she watched the interaction. Her husband exchanged a few polite words with the manager, but she was focused on something else, the sudden shift in behavior. Mark wasn't carrying his wallet. He hadn't even pulled out his phone yet, but Tina could already tell something was different. Something was about to happen. The manager motioned to the back office and, without asking, led Mark toward the desk where Tina had just been rejected. Tina followed them, her curiosity piqued and her suspicion growing. Mark sat down at the desk, reaching into his jacket pocket. The manager leaned in, eyes locked on Mark as he pulled out a black card. Tina's breath caught in her throat. The card was unmistakable. The manager froze. And in that moment, everything changed. Before the manager could speak, Tina stepped forward. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice sharper now. "You didn't want to sell me the car. But now." Mark stood up, looking at her with a strange expression. "Tina, I don't know what's happening here, but there's something you don't know about our accounts." The manager's gaze flicked to Mark's hand again, and he hesitated. Tina's heart raced. What was going on? Why did a simple card change everything? The manager spoke again, but his voice was lower now, as though he were afraid someone might overhear. "We weren't sure you could afford the car, Mrs. Reynolds," he said quietly. "But we see now that your husband's status changes things." Tina's eyes widened, and her chest tightened. What was he talking about? Mark's eyes flickered uncomfortably. "Tina. I should have told you sooner." And before he could say another word, Tina was hit with a realization so shocking, she nearly stumbled backward. The truth was something she had never expected. Something that would change everything. The truth behind her husband's secret was about to come to light. And it would shake her world to its core. Tina's thoughts swirled in a storm of disbelief. Her mind tried to make sense of the pieces, but they didn't fit. She looked at the manager, who stood there uncomfortably, and then back at Mark, who still seemed to avoid her gaze. "I don't understand," Tina whispered. "Why did you keep this from me? Why didn't you tell me about your status? You didn't think I'd want to know?" Mark opened his mouth, but no words came out. The manager took a step back, giving them space. Tina's eyes locked onto the black card in his hand. It was an invitation to a world she hadn't known existed. The kind of world where everything could be bought and sold without a second thought, where status was everything, and she was just an accessory to it all. Her breath caught in her throat. "How long?" she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. "How long have you been hiding this from me?" Mark shifted uncomfortably. "Tina, it's not that simple. It's complicated, and I didn't want to drag you into it." But Tina wasn't listening anymore. The realization that her husband had kept something so huge from her, the kind of secret that could unravel everything, was too much to ignore. He had been living in a world she knew nothing about, and now, she was the outsider. Suddenly, the manager spoke up again, his voice a little too eager. "Mr. Reynolds, if you'd like, we can move forward with the paperwork now. No need to worry about anything. Just give the word, and we'll finalize everything." Mark's eyes flicked to Tina, his expression unreadable. Then, with a deep sigh, he turned back to the manager. "Yes, let's proceed," he said, the words heavy with something Tina couldn't place. Tina stood there, stunned, as the dealer smiled and quickly ushered them toward the back office. It was as if nothing had happened, as if everything was fine. But Tina's world had just been turned upside down, and she wasn't sure she could trust anything anymore. Her hands shook as she followed them, but the words that echoed in her mind weren't about the car or the dealership. They were about her marriage, the secrets, the lies, the things Mark hadn't told her. She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was just the beginning of something far bigger. And she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. But she was going to find out. Tina sat in the plush leather chair in the dealership's back office, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The sleek, modern room seemed to close in around her, the soft hum of the air conditioning almost drowned out by the pounding of her heart. Mark sat across from her, his gaze fixed on the desk, his fingers absent-mindedly tapping the surface. Neither of them spoke. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken words. The salesman, who had once been so eager to close the deal, now stood by the door, his presence only adding to the discomfort. He had, by all accounts, already done his part, but there was something in his eyes, something Tina couldn't quite place, that suggested he knew more than he was letting on. She didn't trust him. Not anymore. Mark shifted in his seat, his hands folding together as if he were about to explain something. But Tina couldn't take it anymore. She leaned forward, her voice low but firm. "I need to know everything, Mark. Everything." He looked up at her, his expression tight. The light in his eyes flickered, a flash of guilt that was impossible to miss. "Tina, No," she cut him off, her voice rising. "You need to tell me what's going on. What is all this? What is that card, Mark? And why did you lie to me about everything?" Mark rubbed his face, a sign that he was struggling with the words. He let out a long breath, and for a moment, Tina thought he might stay silent. But then, slowly, he spoke. "I didn't lie to you, Tina," he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I just kept things from you. I didn't want to hurt you." "Didn't want to hurt me?" Tina's voice cracked. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "Do you realize how much this hurts? The lies, the secrets. We've been married for years, Mark. And you've been hiding this world from me." Mark stood too, but instead of coming toward her, he stood still, his hands clenched at his sides. "It's not like that. I didn't keep it from you because I wanted to hurt you. I kept it from you because I didn't think you'd understand." Tina laughed bitterly. "Understand? Mark, I'm your wife. I should be the one who understands everything about you." "I'm not like other people, Tina," he said quietly. "And neither is the world I'm part of. You wouldn't want to know." Tina's mind reeled. She felt like she was on the edge of something she didn't want to see, like she was peering into a darkness she wasn't prepared to face. But she had no choice now. "Tell me. I need to know, Mark. I need the truth." Mark took a deep breath and, for the first time, looked directly at her. "Okay. Fine. But you need to promise me that you won't freak out. That you'll just listen." Tina's pulse quickened. What was he about to say? She nodded, trying to steady her nerves. "I promise." He hesitated for a moment longer, his eyes searching hers, as if looking for any sign of judgment. When he finally spoke again, it was in a near whisper. "I'm not who you think I am, Tina. You know I've always been successful, right? But it's more than that. I didn't just climb the corporate ladder. I didn't just get lucky. The truth is, I've been living a double life." Tina's head spun. "What do you mean? A double life?" Mark's lips pressed into a thin line. "I have access to a lot of money, Tina. More than you can imagine. And it's not just from my business. My connections run deeper than you think. The card I showed them? That's not just any credit card. It's a black card, one of the highest level cards in the world. Only a select few people have access to it. And it's not even mine, Tina. It's part of a larger network." Tina froze. The black card, it wasn't just an expensive piece of plastic, it was a symbol of something far more sinister. Her mind reeled as she processed what Mark had just said. "What do you mean by a network? Who are these people?" she asked, her voice shaking. Mark exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. He looked exhausted. "I'm part of a group, Tina. A very exclusive one. We control, well, let's just say we have influence over things that you can't even begin to understand. Political decisions, financial markets, even the global economy. We're at the top of everything, and we don't let just anyone in. Tina could barely breathe. She staggered back a step, her legs feeling weak beneath her. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. What do you mean you're part of it? What does that even mean, Mark? How long has this been going on? For years, he admitted. I've been involved in this network for almost a decade. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want you to see the side of me that's not just about the family and the house and the life we've built together. It's dangerous, Tina. I didn't want you to get dragged into it. But I am dragged into it now, aren't I? Tina snapped, her eyes narrowing. You've been lying to me, Mark. You've been living this entire other life and pretending everything was fine. And now? Now I find out that the only reason the dealership even considered my car purchase is because of your connections? This is insane. Mark reached out, but Tina stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. You've lied to me for years, she whispered, shaking her head. And now you want me to just understand? I'm sorry, he said softly. But I need you to know, this wasn't about not trusting you. It's just. I couldn't let you get caught in this world, Tina. I couldn't bear the thought of you being dragged into the mess that comes with it. Tina stood there, trying to wrap her mind around everything he had just said. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her, and she was floating in a sea of confusion. All the years she had spent with Mark, believing she knew him, had just been shattered. This man, this stranger who sat before her, was someone she had never truly known. The salesman, who had been quietly observing, cleared his throat. Mr. Reynolds, if you'd like, we can finalize the paperwork now. The car is still available, as promised. Tina's heart skipped a beat at the mention of the car. She had completely forgotten about it. It seemed so insignificant now. All that mattered was the truth. The truth that Mark had kept hidden for so long. She looked at him, eyes filled with unspeakable hurt. No, Mark. I don't want the car anymore. But, it's all ready, he began, but she interrupted him. I don't care about the car. Not anymore. You've shown me who you really are, and I don't know if I can live with that. Mark stood up, desperation flashing in his eyes. Tina, please. Don't walk away from me. Please, just let me explain more. You don't understand what's at stake. Tina's breath caught. I do understand, Mark. You've spent years hiding the truth from me. And now I have to live with the fact that I don't know who you are anymore. Tears filled her eyes as she turned and walked toward the door. She couldn't stay in that office for another second. The man she had built her life with, her husband, was a stranger. A stranger with secrets too dark for her to understand. As she reached for the door, she heard Mark call after her, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The truth had already shattered everything she thought she knew about their life. And now, she had to find a way to put the pieces back together. If that was even possible. Tina slammed the door behind her, the sound reverberating through the empty street as if the very world was echoing her pain. Her breaths came in sharp gasps, her heart a mess of confusion and anger. What had she just heard? A network? A secret life? Mark wasn't just the man she had married, he was someone else entirely, someone she couldn't even recognize anymore. She had stepped out of the dealership to find the cold wind cutting through her, but it couldn't touch the fire that raged inside her chest. How could he? How could he hide something like that for so long? Her mind spun in circles, and all she wanted was to escape, to run away and forget. But there was nowhere to go. Her whole life was tangled up in the lies, and she didn't know if she even wanted to face what was waiting for her when she got home. She hadn't realized how much time had passed before she finally reached the car. Her hands shook as she fumbled for the keys, but she couldn't bring herself to start the engine. She needed time. Time to think. Time to breathe. Why did he do it? Why didn't he tell me? The question repeated itself like a mantra in her mind. Tina stared out of the window, her eyes unfocused, as if she could somehow force herself to understand the twisted mess Mark had created. Her fingers curled around the steering wheel, nails digging into the leather as if trying to ground herself in something that wasn't made of lies. After a long moment, she heard her phone ring. Her heart skipped a beat, and for a brief moment, she thought it might be Mark, pleading with her to come back. But the number on the screen was unfamiliar. With a shaky hand, she answered the call. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was low and steady. "Tina? This is Caroline. Mark's assistant." Caroline. Tina had met her only a few times, always when Mark was too busy to attend a family gathering or when he was on one of his many business trips. Caroline's voice always seemed pleasant, but there was something in it now, something sharp, that made Tina's skin crawl. "What do you want?" Tina asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She didn't feel steady. She didn't know how she felt anymore. She didn't know who she was anymore. I know this must be hard for you, Tina," Caroline began, her voice now laced with an odd sympathy. "But there's something you need to know. Something Mark doesn't want you to hear from anyone else." Tina's stomach turned. She wanted to hang up, wanted to shut out the world and just disappear into the silence, but she couldn't. Caroline's voice held her there. "What is it?" Tina's voice was barely above a whisper. Caroline hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "You don't know who Mark really is, do you? Not the way you think you do." Tina felt the blood drain from her face. She had no idea what Caroline was getting at, but she knew one thing: she couldn't take any more lies. Not from anyone. "What do you mean?" Tina demanded. Her pulse raced. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not sure if he's ever told you," Caroline said, her voice tense now, "but Mark isn't just a businessman. He's not just a wealthy man with a lot of connections. He's one of the most powerful people in the world. And there are things he's been involved in that he can't get out of. You've heard of the global syndicates, right? The ones with their hands in everything: finance, politics, international influence." Tina's blood ran cold. She could barely breathe. "No. Mark's not involved in that. He's not." Caroline laughed, but it was hollow, empty. "Oh, sweetie. He is. And you've been living with a man who's tied to some of the most dangerous people in the world. It's not just business deals, Tina. It's far darker than that." Tina felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. Her mind couldn't process it. "Dangerous people?" "Tina, listen to me," Caroline continued. "I'm telling you this because I think you need to know the truth. Mark is involved in something he can't walk away from. And the deeper you go, the more you'll get dragged into it. You won't be able to escape it. Trust me. He's in too deep." Tina opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She could barely hold herself together. Her hands were trembling, her vision blurry as everything started to spin out of control. "No. This isn't happening. It can't be. You have to decide what you want to do next, Tina," Caroline said. "But just know, if you stay with Mark, you'll never be free of this. You'll always be caught in his web." Tina felt like she was suffocating. "Why are you telling me this? Why now?" "I'm telling you because Mark's not going to come clean. He never will. You have to decide if you want to be a part of his world, or if you want to leave and never look back." The call ended with a click, leaving Tina in stunned silence. Her head spun, and for a moment, she thought she might pass out from the weight of it all. The world outside seemed to mock her. The trees were swaying in the breeze as if everything was normal. But inside, Tina felt like she was drowning. Mark's assistant had just confirmed everything she had feared. Mark was part of something far bigger than she could ever have imagined. And now, she was standing on the edge, unsure of whether to step forward or turn back. But there was one thing she was sure of: she couldn't live with this uncertainty. She couldn't live with the lies. And she certainly couldn't live in the shadow of a man who had hidden this world from her for so long. Taking a deep breath, Tina grabbed her phone again, dialing Mark's number. She couldn't wait any longer. She needed answers. The phone rang several times before Mark picked up. His voice sounded strained, almost broken. "Tina, I didn't think you'd call." "You lied to me, Mark," she said, her voice hard as steel. "You lied. You've been living a lie, and now I'm part of it. I need to know the truth. All of it." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Mark spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tina, I never meant for you to get involved in any of this. I didn't want you to know." "No," Tina cut him off, her voice full of fury. "You didn't want me to know because you knew I would leave. You didn't want me to know because you knew it would ruin everything. Well, it's too late for that now. You've ruined everything, Mark." "I didn't ruin anything," Mark said sharply. "You're not understanding. I didn't want you to be dragged into this. This is bigger than both of us." "Bigger than us?" Tina laughed bitterly. "You've been lying to me for years, and now you want to tell me that? You've been keeping secrets from me, and you think I'm just supposed to accept it?" "I didn't have a choice," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "You don't understand what's at stake, Tina. If I leave now, everything falls apart. And you'll be in danger too." Tina's breath hitched. "Danger?" "Yes," he whispered. "You've been in danger all along. The moment you married me, you became part of this world. And now, there's no turning back." Tina's heart sank. Everything she had ever known, the love, the marriage, the life they had built, was now a lie. It wasn't just Mark's life she had been living. It was his dangerous life. And it wasn't going to be easy to walk away from it. But she knew one thing for certain: she couldn't stay trapped in a web of lies, deceit, and danger. "I don't know if I can be with you anymore, Mark," she whispered, the words cutting like a knife. "I can't lose you, Tina," he said, his voice trembling. "I need you." Tina felt her heart shatter. She loved him, but the man she loved was gone. In his place stood a stranger, a man so lost in his own web of secrets and power that he didn't even know how to reach her anymore. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," she said softly, before hanging up the phone. And for the first time, Tina felt truly alone. The apartment felt colder now. Tina had moved through it like a ghost, unable to settle anywhere. The air around her seemed thick with the weight of the secrets she'd uncovered. Mark's betrayal, the lies, and the dark undercurrent of his life that she'd never known about, it had all turned her world upside down. It had been 2 days since that fateful conversation with Caroline, and the silence in the apartment was suffocating. Mark hadn't called back, and Tina hadn't been able to bring herself to reach out again. She didn't know what she was waiting for, whether it was answers or some kind of closure that she feared would never come. She hadn't even begun to process the enormity of what she'd learned. But she knew one thing: she couldn't run away from this. She couldn't go on pretending that everything was okay. Tina had spent most of the past 2 days thinking, pacing, and wondering if there was a way forward. She kept recalling Caroline's words. "You'll never be free of this." Was that true? Was she bound to Mark's world of power and deceit forever? The thought filled her with dread, but a small part of her, one that had always been resilient, even when she doubted herself, refused to believe it. She had to believe there was a way out. A way to reclaim her life. The phone buzzed on the coffee table, and for a moment, Tina froze. She'd been expecting a call from Mark, but not from anyone else. Her heart skipped when she saw the name on the screen. It was Mark. She stared at it for a long moment, her thumb hovering over the green button. Do I pick up? She had promised herself that she wouldn't let him manipulate her anymore. That she wouldn't let him dictate her choices or keep her in the dark. But then, she thought about all the things she didn't know, things she needed to understand before she could make any decision. Tina pressed the button. Mark, she said, her voice quiet but steady. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or terrified that he was calling. Tina, I'm sorry. Mark's voice was strained, and there was a hesitation in his words. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you. About us. Tina bit her lip, trying to keep her emotions in check. What do you want, Mark? I want to explain, he said quickly. I want you to understand why I did what I did, why I kept this from you. Please, just hear me out. Tina stood up, pacing again. You think that's going to fix this? You think an explanation will make it all okay? I don't know, Mark said, his voice breaking slightly. But I have to try. I owe you that much. I can't lose you, Tina. Her pulse raced. Can you lose someone if you never truly had them? Where are you? Mark asked. I need to see you. Tina paused. There it was. The same desperation. The same need that had always seemed to hold her in place. But this time, it wasn't enough. It couldn't be. I don't know if I can see you right now, she said. I don't think I can trust you. I understand, Mark replied quickly. But I need you to know the truth. The whole truth. Please, Tina. Let me come to you. Please. Tina didn't respond immediately. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that there was still a chance for them. But the doubt, the fear, it was all too overwhelming. The world she thought she knew had fallen apart in the blink of an eye. I'll be there in an hour, Mark said, almost pleading. Please. Tina looked out the window. The street outside had started to quiet as evening settled in. The soft glow of the streetlights cast a peaceful hue over everything, but the storm in her mind refused to settle. Okay, she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. An hour. An hour later, Mark stood at the door. He looked different. Not in the way a person's appearance changes over time, but in the way someone who has been through a major shift looks. His eyes were tired, his face drawn and pale. Tina had never seen him like this before, and it made the man she once knew feel like a stranger. She hesitated before opening the door, but then she did. He stepped inside, his eyes searching her face for some sign of recognition, some spark of warmth. But there was nothing. Tina had become a mirror, reflecting the emptiness he had left in her heart. You look, Mark trailed off, unable to find the right words. Tina didn't say anything. She simply crossed the room and sat down on the couch, arms crossed tightly in front of her, like she was protecting herself from the hurt she knew was coming. Mark sat down beside her, but there was a distance between them. A space so wide it felt insurmountable. I never meant for this to happen, Mark began. I never meant to drag you into this life. When I met you, everything felt so simple. So easy. But I was already involved in things I couldn't get out of. And I thought I could keep you away from it. I thought I could protect you. Tina turned her head to look at him, her face unreadable. Protect me? From what, Mark? From you? Yes, he said quietly. From me. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want to put you in danger. But the deeper I got, the harder it became to get out. I wanted to tell you, Tina. I really did. But I was afraid. I was afraid of what it would do to us. Tina shook her head, the words too heavy to process. And now? What do you expect from me now? That I'll just accept it? That I'll forgive you? No, Mark said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to understand why I did what I did. I was trapped, Tina. And I thought that if I stayed in this world long enough, I could get us out. I thought I could fix it. I thought that one day, we'd be free. Tina closed her eyes, letting out a slow breath. She could feel the tears gathering behind her eyelids, but she refused to let them fall. She had no more room for tears. You've ruined everything, Mark, she whispered, her voice breaking. I know, he said, his voice trembling now. But I need you to understand that I never wanted this for us. I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know who you are anymore, Tina replied, the words coming out before she could stop them. I don't know who we are anymore. Mark reached out, his hand hovering over hers but never quite touching it. Tina, I still love you. I always will. Her heart ached at the words. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to think that the love they once shared could somehow survive this. But as she looked at him, the truth settled in. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about trust, and he had shattered that trust beyond repair. Tina pulled her hand away, standing up. I can't do this anymore, Mark. I can't keep pretending. I can't live in a world full of lies and shadows. Mark stood up too, his face crumpling in anguish. Tina, please. I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you. Tina's gaze hardened. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into this relationship with dreams of a future. She had been changed by the truth, by the revelations of the past days. I'm not who you think I am, she said softly. I can't be that woman for you anymore. And with that, Tina walked out of the room, out of the life they had built together. She didn't look back. The lesson. As Tina stepped into the cool night air, she felt a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in a long time. There were no more illusions, no more pretending. She wasn't running away from Mark, she was running towards something much more important, herself. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to let go. To face the truth, even when it means the end of something you thought would last forever. But Tina knew now that the most important thing she could do was to rebuild her life, piece by piece, until she was strong enough to stand on her own. And in the end, that's what saved her.